So can you see my screen?
Yeah, it's visible.
Perfect. So the exercise session 2 is about the project continuous integration, continuous deployment, and tools configuration. First, about the continuous integration, that it's basically a software practice that it needs the frequently committing, and every time that we push the changes to the shared repository, then the project will be built and also will be tested. About the continuous integration benefits, because we merge the code more frequently, so we can detect the errors sooner. There will be less amount of the code for debugging. And also, when there is less amount of the code, the merge would be much easier. So probably there would be less conflicts. And as you can see in this image, we can check the continuous integration, continuous delivery, and continuous deployment. The first 3 steps, when we push all the changes to the repository, is inside the continuous integration. The first step is the pushing all the changes of the code to the GitHub repository. Then it will be built automatically, and then it would be integrated. About the continuous delivery, there is one more step, that it's about the release. And for the continuous deployment, also it deploy the application for the customer or for the test users. And for those who are not familiar with the GitHub, GitHub is a platform for hosting the codes. And basically it contains the version control and also the collaboration. GitHub also owned by Microsoft. And about GitHub Action, they handle all the continuous integration and continuous deployment. So with the GitHub Action, we can configure automated process, and each process can be contain one or more jobs. So here in this slide, you can see one sample of the GitHub actions. Basically, this one is from the Azure DevOps. The first step, when we push the changes to the repository, the first job is setting the node version, because some applications then need one specific node version, for example, 10.14. That for the first step, we set the node version. The next step would be installing the dependencies. And the command is npm install. So with npm install, all the packages and dependencies will be installed. The next step is the npm build. In this step, the command is npm build, and then one folder will be created that it contains all the related files for publishing the application. In the next step, it archives the build folder that it produced in the previous step. And finally, it publish all the changes, for example, to GitHub for users for testing, or for the in Azure portal for the customers. Now about the practical part. There would be two different parts. First, there is a GitHub quick start that if you are already familiar with the GitHub, so you can skip this part, and this part probably takes about 20 minutes. And the next step would be about the project setup. That also, that one, it takes about maybe 10 to 15 minutes. So first we start with GitHub quick start. So let me. So the first step is installing the Git and also create the GitHub account. This part is not difficult to do, and I put the link here for you that you can install the Git, and especially the Git bash, that you can use it for running the different command lines for the Git. And then we need to create a local Git repository. So let me command prompt. And then we navigate to the folder that we want to create the Git directory. So then it's okay. So first, if it's a small the font, let me also make the font a bit bigger so it's easier for you to see it. So now, so the first step, we create the directory, and then we need a name. So sample Git project. Then we navigate inside the folder, and if we check, now the folder is empty. So then let's create one simple node application. We don't need to change anything. So as you can see here, now we have one sample project. So for the next step, that is create a local Git repository, we use the Git init that basically initialize the Git, and it create one folder for the Git that it handle all the Git functions. So then we need to add the file. Let's open the code editor. You can use any code editor by your interest. I use the Visual Studio Code. Also, WebStorm is a good choice for the developing the project. So now if you can see here, let me make this one bigger. So here we have only one file that is package.json. So then we create a new file and put it readme and first update for the project. So then we need to save the file. So basically we have done this step, that is add a file to a new file to the repository. Then about add a file to the staging environment. Let me show you the process that how it's handled. So if we consider here, so this one is the local repository that we already created. Then we will have one Git repository. Then every update that we are doing in the local repository, then we need to so first we need to commit all the changes. And basically the commit, we add one text and then we make it ready for pushing to the GitHub repository. And then for the next step, we will push all the changes to the Git. And then every time that we want to update the local repository, we can use this one from the Git to the local, and then this one is pull. So with the pull function, we update all the local files based on the Git repository. So then we need to, for this step, add a file to a staging environment. Basically, the code editors, they handle all the parts, but because we want to practice, so let's use Git add, and if we use dot, so we add all the files in the Git repository. Okay. So then we need to create a commit, and the commit is, for example, git commit -m, that we put one message, then we can check our commit later. So simply we put it first. So that's it. And if we check here, it shows us, okay, 2 files changed. So it added 2 files. So we created a commit, then create a new branch. And the command for the creating new branch is git checkout, use the checkout for changing the branch, but if there is not any branch, or if we want to create any branch, we use -b and the name of the branch. So then it creates one new branch that you can see here. So then the next step. Now we need to create a new repository on GitHub. So let's do that. So probably in the first step, you created the GitHub account. And then here, it's github.com. And then you can, in the repository section, click the new repository. And then we need a repository name. We can put it, so we can put it, for example, GitHub sample project. And this name should be unique in our GitHub account, so we cannot have two repositories with the same name. And if the project is some professional project or it's for enterprise, you need to use the private option. Otherwise, you can use with the public. So we use the public one. And here you can add README file, gitignore file, or license. So we don't add anything and create repository. Now the repository is created, but it's empty. So we need to push all the changes from the local repository to the GitHub. So we finished this step that it was create a new repository on GitHub. And then the next step is push a branch to GitHub. So for pushing a branch to GitHub, we use the git. We use git push. And for the first time, if we use this, then we will receive an error that we need to connect the local repository with GitHub repository. Okay, so we have the error that git remote add. And if we check here, you can see that when we want to commit and push all the changes to the GitHub repository, we need to connect the local to the GitHub repository. So we use git remote add origin and the address of the GitHub repository. So let's do that. So I paste that. So it's git remote add and this address. So it would be git add remote add origin, and then we need to have this address, and this address is for our GitHub repository. So then there is not any error message, so probably everything is fine. And for checking, we use git remote -v. And now if we check it here, okay, it shows that Now we are connected to this GitHub repository. So then the next step, so we need to push a branch to GitHub. So let's use git push. And the push command will send all of the updates from the local repository to the GitHub. And then we have this error message that we need to use this command. So we copy it and paste it. Okay, we have an error here that push. And okay, this command is not recommended, and this one use -f. So when we use -f, basically we force the Git to send all the changes to GitHub repository. So then let's check it. So now in the GitHub repository, if we reload the page, okay, now we can see that there are two files available there. One is package.json, and the next one is README that we added. And now we have only one branch. So also for the next step, we want to practice how to create a pull request. So for creating a pull request, we need two different branches. So I will do it this time more quickly because we practice creating a branch and make changes to that. So then I want to git checkout -b, that this command will create a new branch for us. So then we use the name of the new branch. It would be, for example, another branch. And it also switched to the new branch, that it's another branch. So then we can update the files. For example, we can add updating the another branch readme file. So then we can save it. And as I mentioned before, we can, for add all the changes, we use git add and dot. And then we need to use the git commit and with one message and put every message here. But for example, we use the second commit. So here we can see, okay, one file changed, and it shows that, okay, 3 lines inserted and 1 line deleted. And now we can push all the changes. It asks us to use this. Okay, so everything was successful. Now let's check the GitHub repository. So let's reload it. And here we have the code in the tabs. When we click on the tab, then we can see, okay, here we have two different branches. We have one second branch that it's the default one. And then we added another branch that is here. And also we can see this notification here that another branch had recent pushes. Do you want to compare and create pull requests? We can do this. So compare and pull request. So we are in this step that we are creating a pull request. And about the project, there is one reviewer section in the top right. And please add me and also Valentin as the code reviewer, so then we can check your codes and we can see all the changes in your repository and in your pull requests. So then if you see here, we compare another branch and the base branch is second. So then, for example, here we can leave a comment. For example, we can ask Valentina, please check the updates. And then we create the pull request. And it shows, okay, there is no conflicts with the base branch. So then we can basically merge pull requests. Before that, we can check the file changes. It shows that, okay, the red part is the previous file and the green part is the update. So we can easily see that, okay, we added this line, the line 3 to the file. So then here, I can then merge the pull request, confirm merge. When the pull request successfully merged, then we can also delete the branch. So we can also delete it. And then we can make the GitHub repository always clean with deleting the branch after the merge function. So then also we merge the pull request. Then for the last step, we want to get all the changes to the local. So let's try that. So then we switch the local branch to the previous branch. And so we use the command line git checkout and then the name of the branch that we want to switch. Okay, so now we are, the name is something else. It's second. Okay, I forgot to type N, second branch. So now we are in the second branch, and then it will show us, okay, then we can use the git pull. With the git pull command, we can update all the files in the GitHub local based on the GitHub repository. So then we use the git pull. Second branch. So we use git pull. And let's check the changes from the code section. So it is the second branch. So then we use there's another. Okay, so we need also because it contains also origin. So I need to use git pull. And then second branch. It's origin second branch. The second already exists. And let's try if we use the pull. Okay, it needs to set the upstream. Oh, git pull, it doesn't work because it shows git pull remote branch. So we use the git pull origin. And then we need to use the second branch. And we click its repository for programs. There's something wrong in the let's check it. Yes, it shows that nothing to commit. And then if we want to git pull, so let's try once more because it should read it from the origin. From the origin, but it doesn't specify a branch. So, okay. So we use the git pull origin, and then we can use the name of the branch. Like it's second branch. There is one weird issue here. But it not specify a branch. Maybe I can do it like this. Okay, now it's fine. So then for pulling the changes to the local repository, we use the git pull and then origin and the name of the branch. So now our local repository also is updated based on the GitHub repository. So let's check. And that's it about the GitHub quick start. So in this tutorial, we created one local repository, and then also we added the local files. We added the file to the staging environment. We created a commit. Then also we created a new branch. The next step, we created a new repository on GitHub. Next, we push the branch to the GitHub. We checked how to create the pull request and the merging process. And the last one was the pull function that we updated the local files based on the GitHub repository. So the next part is about the project setup. So basically, you will do the same process also in your project when you want to do any update for the project. So let's try that. So the first part, we need to clone the project and fork the project. We start with navigating to the GitHub repository. The repository that we are navigating is Apache repository. If you remember from the previous exercise session, we checked it together. And then we need to choose one project that probably you already selected your project. For example, if we check also the Sonar Cloud, so in the Sonar Cloud, let's find one Java project. So we go with the Java filter and check the past ones. And Java maybe example. So then we can see different projects. So let's choose one of those. So for example, we can go with Apache Shiro project. So it shows that there are 114 bugs in the project. So here we select the Shiro. Okay. So next step, so we navigated already to the GitHub repository. Then we need to use this in the code and then copy this address. And then we need to fork this project. And about the fork process, when we use the fork, we create exactly one copy of the original repository in other location, for example, in our repository. Then we can update and make the changes there. And then we send the pull request to the original repository. And there are different steps for that. So we need to use the git bash to clone the repository. Then we add the upstream and also other steps. But here we use one shorter way that it will be much easier to fork the project. So let's see. So we already copied this address that it's GitHub, the Apache, that it's the GitHub account name, and then shiro.git. That Shiro is the repository name. So then, for example, if you can go to the folder that you want to clone the project there, I use git bash. So then we use git clone and the address of the repository. So now it's cloning the Shiro repository for us. So now it's already done. Let's navigate to the Shiro, and then you can use any code editor or your interest, but I suggest you to use Visual Studio Code. It's free and there are a lot of different plugins that you can use and they are very helpful for your project. For example, you can use the Git plugin that it would be easier to use the Git features. And if you have any question about also Visual Studio and how to work with that, please feel free also to join the consulting meeting on Friday, 4 to 6 p.m. Okay. So now if you can see the structure of the project, we are inside the Shiro project. So there are different directories here. And then in the next step for practicing, we fix one small bug in the project. And then we try to create a pull request to the Shiro repository. So let's find one issue. Let's pick one simple one because otherwise maybe it takes a couple of hours to fix. Okay, this one is a simple one that only we need to add the declaration to the HTML tag and we add the doc type in this tag. So basically, let's copy this. Then let's check where is the bug located. So it's here. Let's click on it. So in the top part, we can see the location of the file. Let me make it a bit bigger, then you can easily see this. So it shows that it's in the integration tests. So let's put it here. So then we navigate to integration tests. And it's guys 3 source directory and main web app account. And finally, it's index.jsp. Index.js. Okay, so we are in the file, and if we can see it, it shows us, okay, the issue location is the line 21. So the line 21, and then as we discussed before, we need to only replace this with this. So basically we fixed a small bug. Next step, we need to save the file. And here in the right part, we can see in the GitHub plugin, you can see what is the differences. So this green one is the updated one, and this red one is the previous. So everything looks fine. Let's try to add the file and commit the file. Sample. Probably because of the permission issue, we cannot send the changes directly to the master branch of the Shiro repository. And the code review and the acceptance of the pull request is needed before. So let's try that. So it shows that we have one commit. So now if we use the git push, let's see what would be the okay. So as we can see here, it shows that I don't have the permission to send my changes, to push all the changes to the Shiro repository. So then, when you use the Visual Studio Code editor, I mentioned that there is a shorter way to fork the project. So when you use the GitHub plugin of Visual Studio Code, when you want to send it, so it shows that, okay, you don't have the permission to push it, but it's possible to create a fork and push to it instead. And if you create fork, that we create fork, basically it copy all the files and create one GitHub repository in our GitHub account. So now we have this notification that the fork was successfully created. Now we can check it out. So here we can see that, okay, it's my GitHub account. And now we have one Shiro repository that it's forked from the Apache Shiro. Okay, nice. So then, let's check it out together. So basically, about the project setup, we handled to clone the project, and then also we use the code editor. We fork the project, and then also for the last step, we try to create one pull request. And if the whole process is a bit confusing, please feel free to pause the video in each step and then try to do that, and then it will be much easier. So now there are different tabs here. The second one is pull request. So we create a new pull request. Okay. So then here it's important to consider, if you see here the head repository, it's Mahyar 1982 Shiro, that it's my GitHub repository. And the base one is Apache Shiro. So, and it shows that, okay, so we have one commit, the name of the commit, that it was sample commit, which part of the file or files we updated. So here it shows that we updated the line 21 of index.jsp file. So then if everything is fine, then we click create pull request. And then we have this notification here because it's our first pull request. We need to consider that if we read it through quickly, the first one, it's mentioned that the issue should be available in the Jira browser, that or probably you selected the issue from here. So then you can easily check this one and then go through the whole part. And then please also add I and Valentina as the code reviewers. So then also we can check that how did you manage to do the project. After that, everything is fine. Only you need to create a pull request. But because this one is the sample one, so I don't create the pull request. So then everything is fine. The process also, it will be the same for creating a new feature or fixing a bug. So only we fork the project, we update the files that we want, and then we push all the changes, and then we create a pull request. And that's it. So today we discussed about the GitHub Quick Start, very simple project that we created, and we practiced different commands of the Git. And in the second practical part, then we forked one sample project from the Apache GitHub repository. And then we have done different steps to create a pull request. And about also the consulting meeting, it will be every Friday, 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. And the link is already in the Moodle. So feel free to join. Then we can discuss about any issue about the configuration of the project or anything else that you want to ask. So thank you, and I stop the recording.